What a year it has been. From the re-election of President Trump last November to the upheavals and the ongoing war in Gaza, the attack on Iran, the elimination of Hezbollah, the fall of Syria, the rising anti-Semitism in Europe and around the world, the breakthroughs in technology, and namely AI, the upheavals continue. The uncertainty grows. Disruptions all around us. Many, many blessings and many beautiful things. But still you can sense that we're in a time of transition. So as the Hebrew year comes to an end, and we're about to enter a new year, Rosh Hashanah, it's a good idea to review what has been and prepare for what comes. So please join me in the special year-end discussion, a year in review, what comes ahead. A year in review. Where do we go from here? Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and we'll be speaking about a year in review. Where do we go from here? This program is dedicated in honor of Alice Harron, with gratitude and warm wishes on her birthday. What a year this has been. The surprising, in many ways, of the re-election of President Trump, unprecedented, last November. The ensuing and ongoing nightmare and battles in Gaza. Hostages still remain in captivity. The attack on Iran, the fall of Hezbollah, fall of Syria, the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe and around the world. The polarization, not only on our campuses, but in general in our entire environment. And of course, many positive things. Breakthroughs in technology, namely AI. A certain uncertainty hangs in the air. Many blessings, many beautiful things. And yet, you can sense it's a time of transition, a disruption of an old world order leading to a new one. So as the curtain comes down, and we're about to end this Hebrew year, and approaching the new year, Rosh Hashanah, it's an appropriate time to do an accounting of what has happened in the past year, and what lies ahead. So overall, always worthwhile to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because when you're in the moment, events take on far more gravity, you can say, and intensity, and sometimes for good reason, because you have to deal with the moment, but you don't get perspective. So one of the things I've been trained in, and really this is essential, you want to call Jewish thinking, Torah think, is to look at a bigger picture, to look at the larger narrative. And the larger narrative tells us that nothing remains static. Everything is in flux. And even when there's uncertainty and disruptions, you have to think of where it's leading to. There's a very beautiful expression in the sages say, who is the wise one? The one that sees the birthing. What does the birthing mean? The one that sees the implications, the consequences, the birthing of what is coming. Not just what is right now, but where is it leading to? Looking ahead, like a bird's eye view. I often compare it, think of you're riding down the river of time on a boat. So with the boat, wherever that boat is at that moment, that's the time that you see. The banks on the river is what you're seeing at that moment. The time and space of your particular situation, your particular present moment and unique location. But imagine there's a bird flying above, and the bird sees what you haven't seen yet, what's coming down the river. And the bird also sees where you were yesterday. Basically the past, the present, and tomorrow, and the future. And that bird then suddenly flies onto your shoulder on the boat and whispers in your ear what it sees. So there you'll have not just the moment, the present location and the present time, but you'll get the context perspective. You on the boat, that's your body. The bird on your shoulder, that's your soul. The soul has a broader and more transcendent perspective on things. However, the soul is within our body. But if you allow your soul to speak, you'll hear a narrative that's a lot broader than the myopic vision, the myopic picture, the small picture, or what your life looks like right at this moment. And that's one of the best ways, whenever we do a review and a preparation, just like a company would do an accountability and audit of its activities. It looks back. What have we done the last quarter, the last year? What are our plans for the next quarter, for the next year? So too in our personal lives. And you can say our collective lives, globally. You do the same thing. What is it in context? And you'll also see it can bring you a deeper calm. I was just in a group meeting earlier, and one of the things that one person made a resolution, I'm not going to be watching my social media, checking it every 30 times an hour or more. Because if you follow the news cycle, so to speak, even though the news cycle is today far more exaggerated, because you have to constantly be feeding it. But if you were to unplug for a while and not be so consumed with events of the moment, generally you'll be a calmer person. When you look at the events, every breaking news is immediately amplified, immediately broadcast, streaming, and then the pundits are weighing in, and the theories start flying. In any event, positive events, tragic events, it's overwhelming, it's draining, it's inundating. It literally completely consumes us, and then you get caught up in the emotions, and then they say, no, that's not exactly what happened. Sometimes it's just good to say, you know what, give me a summary at the end of it, a conclusion, what happened. And when you look at history, history often will tell the story very differently than those moments. But this comes back to how we live our lives vicariously, is stimulated by outside stimuli instead of inside, stimuli from within. So all these things become like the soap opera of our lives that are defining what makes us exciting, what makes us happy, what makes us sad. It's like an external entertainment. Whereas when you're able to step back and say, let me see the bigger picture. The Trump election. So there are those that hate him, there are those that love him. He's like a lightning rod, it's hard to be neutral. But in the big context, if someone asked you in 20 years from now, in 10 years from now, what would the headlines look like when we think back to the Trump era? Very likely, very different than what we're hearing right now. It doesn't mean it wouldn't include some of the polarization and these extremes, but you'd end up looking, what were his achievements? What were his failures? Instead of being caught up, and I'm not even getting into the media frenzy again, for love or hate. In context, Charlie Kirk was killed, murdered, assassinated last week. What's the broader context? Of course, there's the tragedy of the moment, undeniable. The broader context, how is it affecting the future? What did he do to contribute to the conservative movement? The impact on young people. So there are broader questions to be asked, and that's what the bird does. That's what your soul does when you allow it to speak. If you give in and allow the soul to surrender to the body's perspective, then the soul will be trapped. It will be like, think of a visionary who's being silenced and not allowed to speak to you, to give you the bird's eye view, to give you the bigger picture, the forest, not just the trees. So when you think of it that way, a very powerful formula that the Kabbalists, the mystics tell us, and it could be applied to any aspect of life, is the concept of paradigm, vacuum, new paradigm. In the Hebrew, yesh, ayin, and yesh. That every change, every paradigm shift, comes with a vacuum, a void in between. You plant the seed in the ground, it will slowly deteriorate and rot to the point that it disappears, but then it blossoms. First, just as a small little sapling, and then it begins to grow. Everything in life is that way. All true journeys. We all go through the awkwardness of adolescence as we transition from childhood into adulthood. The mother's birth pains and pregnancy pains before she gives birth to a beautiful child. The melting down of a piece of gold in order to shape it into a beautiful ornament. Creativity is always a child of frustration. The frustration as we go from ideas, thoughts, and ideas until we finally have a final product. And the greater the creativity, the greater the frustration. You have to shed one layer of skin to assume a new one. Nowhere is there true growth, and true birthing without that vacuum in between. Because the vacuum is what allows to create the transition, that you're getting out of the previous comfort zone, the previous status quo, to get into a new zone. So that's an overall picture no matter what, whether it's this year, last year, 2 years ago, 20 years, 1,000 years ago. But it puts things into perspective. So a good way to look back at the year is not just what were the events, but what would they mean? What do they mean? What was their significance? Do you understand them now, a few months later? Or do you still need more time to understand them? It's perfectly fine. But it would be good to document, what are the 10 biggest things that happened to you in this past year? Some people got married. Some people unfortunately got divorced. Some people gave birth to a child. Some people started a new job. Some people made a lot of money. Some people lost a lot of money. What epiphanies have you come to? What discoveries? Whether it's intellectual, what new emotional vistas have you explored in your relationships, in your own self-awareness? Have you come to a better understanding of your purpose in life, your mission in life? And what about your values? Have events around you helped crystallize those values? Or has it become more vague, more confusing? Whether it's a positive or a negative, it's always within context. It's always within a larger story, a larger narrative. Now, some of it, you may say, I understand a bit of that narrative, but it hasn't yet fully unfolded. The jury is still out. There's still things to happen. So be it. It's not like the exact last day of the year, everything stops. Things will continue from this year into the new, but you're contextualizing, perspective. You're climbing the mountain and not just seeing the plateau that we see, the ground around us, what we see from the plateau, but you're looking from the mountain peak. You see a much broader horizon. And the same thing as we look to the future. So though we don't have a crystal ball, and we're not prophets, but you can piece together the signposts, the coordinates, and say, what does it look like when I think of it in a broader picture? Again, not the here and now, not the moment. In a broader picture, what have I learned? And what can I learn? How will I use the events that will be coming ahead of me toward opportunities? Whether it's things like advancements in technology. What's your plan? And not just the moment I'm going to go into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Anthropic or all the other Copilot, I don't remember all the names, frankly, and put in my immediate question. Maybe you should ask the question. I want to share some of my life. Ask AI, how would you map out a game plan for the next 12 months? What are your goals? This is called the bird thinking, the bird language, meaning the soul's perspective. So it's looking back and looking at the bigger picture, and looking forward and looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger the picture, the more you see how it starts connecting. If you want to really take it to the next step, don't just cover a year. Go back several years. Last 5 years, what has happened in your life? The more you're deliberate about this, the more effective the exercise will be. Because it's not just about a nice review, it's about getting clarity and being honest. Things that, maybe you procrastinated or just pushed off or just allowed yourself to be a victim of routine, of habit, creature of habit. What? Your goal is to make things happen, not just to watch things happen or ask what happened. And to make things happen, you need to think like a leader does. No matter who you are and what you're going through, this will always help you. This approach. And yes, taking a piece of paper is very, very helpful in this context. Because you write it down, things are defined. In some ways, or many ways, the book I composed called 60 Days, A Spiritual Guide to the High Holidays, helps you do that. It's a day-to-day journal, day-to-day journey. Day by day, with certain meditations and thoughts, exercises, points to consider, events, facts, and you can map out and journal your life experiences as a journey and as a continuum, as you grow, as you prepare, as you take an accounting, introspection, soul searching. But all this is contingent on you wanting to do it. It doesn't happen automatically. At times we're motivated because we're in pain or we're desperate. You don't need to wait for that. Because as I said, an intelligent person looks ahead, looks at the birthing. And indeed, Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, is a birthday. It's the birthday, the collective birthday of the human race, meaning the birthday of each one of us, and a day when we ask ourselves, why am I here? Or the way God put it in the book of Genesis, after Adam had transgressed and betrayed himself. So God says, where are you? Not that he didn't know where he was physically. Where's your headspace? Where's your soul? I don't recognize you. Like someone sitting near you and you say they spaced out. Where are you? What have you done with your life? Where do you stand? How much of your mission have you fulfilled? Do you know what your mission is? One of the healthiest things is to do such an accounting. It's cleansing, actually. Firstly, it puts things into context. Secondly, it makes you honest. Because there's no point in doing it just to fool yourself. It makes you honest. To look at what has happened, what has not happened. Here are my dreams. How far am I from fulfilling those dreams? What are the impediments? How can I overcome them? Who are my friends? Who is my support system that's helping me grow? And who is the support system that's just keeping me down? Or just reinforcing my negativity or my despondency? There's so much to think about, so much to ask. And this is the perfect time of the year to do so. A real soul searching. So in the broadest context, we can say, in one of the broadest contexts, you can say that The advancements around us at breathtaking speed, enhancing, revolutionizing communication, the delivery of information, access, has, however, a certain profound dissonance with our own personal growth. Are we growing as fast as technology is growing personally? Some even say that technology impedes our true growth because you start relying on the machines. You think it's doing everything. You think you're Superman. And what I may say, growing in areas of emotional intelligence, of personal interaction, on a very human level, becoming more human, becoming more transcendent. These are all things that we need in our lives. But very often when we're distracted by this so much information out there. I remember reading years ago, you may recall the writer or journalist, the columnist, Bill Safire. And it was right in the beginning of what was called the information revolution, technology, the way media was going online. And he wrote something very interesting. He wrote, up till now, before all these new technologies, a journalist's main strength was the scoop. He had access to individuals, often confidential aspects or confidants, who would share with him information. And the best ones are the ones that had inside information and that broke the news before others did. He says now things are going the exact opposite direction. Everyone has access to information. Obviously, there's always still some confidential things. But here he says the distributors of information, the writers, their job is going to be the exact opposite, information police. What I mean by police, not censorship. But they'll filter and regulate what is relevant, what is less relevant, what is more relevant to you. So instead of giving you that unique piece of information you need that they have because they have their access, they'll take all the information out there and sift through it and say, here is what's relevant. It's a whole different way of looking at it. And with AI, it just turns the whole thing on its head even further in revolutionizing the way information will be disseminated, user-generated through our questions. And the better your question, the better the answer. But you see, the key thing here is the you, the I in AI. And I don't mean intelligence, I mean the I as the person. Because all the technology in the world, yes, can make your life a lot easier and everything faster. But if you are lacking emotional intelligence, or you have difficulty in relationships, or you're struggling in other ways, all the technology in the world is only going to amplify that. Junk in, junk out. As a matter of fact, little junk in with technology becomes a lot of junk out. However, if you enter with a certain focus and clarity and calm, then the technology can amplify that. You love someone. They're traveling. You have a way now, technology, to communicate that love. Whereas once upon a time, you couldn't communicate it. You have values. Now with technology, you can share those values. You can help illuminate, inspire someone thousands or even millions of miles away when that will be necessary. Meaning will be people that are that many miles away. So it all comes down to a deeper responsibility that all these machines are placing upon us to use them properly. And the same is true with the other transitions that we're going through. Uncertainty begins to melt away when you are certain about your values and your focus and your mission. That you can be certain in. Whether the water will be choppy, stormy, calm, you're not in control of that. But you're in control of where you are at and how you navigate. And if it's choppy, you know what to do because you know what your mission is. You know where you're going. If not, then of course the circumstances around you will throw you every time. Because it's like, let's say you're at sea and someone says, a storm is coming, and say, well, where is the storm going to lead us? It shouldn't lead you anywhere. It should be a challenge you have to overcome to get to your destination, but you need a destination. That's what we need now more than ever. crystallizing those values, crystallizing the destination, the goals, the bigger call, the bigger mission. Where are you headed? And then navigate the best way you can. And if something comes your way, a storm or a wave, you'll figure out how to manage that. Perhaps you pull back, perhaps you ride the wave, perhaps you wait it out. But regardless, your mission does not change because of the circumstances and the environment around you. I remember writing an article. We don't control the weather. We control the how. Not just the weather as a W-E-A-T-H-E-R, but also the W-H-E-T-H-E-R. Whether something will happen or whether it won't happen, that we don't control. But how? What are we going to do about it? How will we navigate it? That how is completely up to us. So as Rosh Hashanah approaches, the question you have to ask yourself in the Hebrew, Ayeka, where are you? Where do you stand in your life's mission? Are you singing your unique song? And if not, why not? What are the impediments? What's blocking you? And what are you doing about removing those blocks? Not looking for perfection. We're looking for honesty, for clarity. Ayeka. And when you do that, you're really beginning the process of self-discovery, self-awareness that allows you to appreciate what the Kabbalists say, namely Rabbi Isaac Luria and Rabbi Shneur Zalman of the Yadi in Tanya, that as Rosh Hashanah enters a new energy, a new unprecedented energy, a or chadash in the Hebrew, a new light, a new energy enters into our stratosphere, one that was never there before, opening up new opportunities. But you need to be new to receive them, because if you're going with old attitudes, you're going to receive the energy in old containers, old barrels. Obviously, you can get it out of grace, but the more you prepare, the more you think differently, the more you speak differently, the more you do differently, then you create the container, the channel for new experiences and new possibilities. And I want to wish each of you personal blessing. May this new year open up exactly those channels for you. May you create at least some of the containers necessary to draw them down, integrate them, internalize them in your life. May they bring tremendous success beyond your wildest imagination in your livelihood, financially, abundance materially and spiritually, blessings with family and children, and in peace and joy, long, healthy years, and all in the best of health. And finally, may you fulfill the unique mission, the unique and indispensable contribution that you and only you can make. Shana Tova, be blessed and be well. From myself personally and from all of us here at the Meaningful Life Center. This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. MeaningfulLife.com is our repository, our home online, where you can access all the content today using AI tools, asking your questions and accessing everything that we've ever created. You can also get it at WhatsApp. So just go to simonjacobson.ai or meaningfullife.com. You'll see all the proper links. You can use WhatsApp to ask all these questions and go on a journey. We're here for you. So if this message was meaningful to you, please share with others. Please subscribe to our offerings, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I would always love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. Be blessed, be well, Shana Tova, a very happy, sweet, and meaningful year.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.